number 3 in the division versus an unranked fighter, you're usually looking plus 250, plus 300 at minimum, right? Nonetheless, like we were talking about before, Bashar Bullet, he's a minus 600 favorite. We're lucky to not be seeing those numbers on the Robert Whittaker line. So that's cash right there for me.
The UFC is in shambles. UFC Saudi Arabia has been absolutely nuts. Honestly, if you're a UFC fan, the last couple of weeks have been nuts. When we're talking about fighters pulling out, replacement bouts, people popping for PEDs, everything that you can think of. This week, we got weight misses, we got the whole 9. So we're here to break it down. UFC Saudi Arabia, we're making history. Welcome back to another episode of the Bloody Water Podcast. My name is Derick G. I am your host, and breaking it down with me, as always, is the Santa Fe Bomber, the New Mexico native. AJ, I don't know if you tuned into that UFC Inc. or whatever it was called, the little Roku doc that they had, but Hunter Campbell or Mick Maynard, which one of those guys, they're working double, triple overtime right now. Dana White, all of them are in shambles. What did the Saudis, the kingdom, what did they have to do to keep this fight card alive, bro? Because it's been rough. What do you think?
Whew, man, Derek, that is a great question. I'm curious the pay that's going to the fighters that are jumping in or the ones that have stuck around, because somebody's getting some kickback to have to stick in there for the kind of shenanigans that are happening. Either way, man, I mean, this is I feel like we're back, brother. Like, this is how things used to go down when we were traveling the world. Now it's back again. It's good to see. And hey, they're still making fights, so you got to give them credit on that.
It does go to show that there is a little bit of downside when you don't have the organized Las Vegas warehouse that is the UFC Apex for every single weekend event. But this is what we love. It's uncertainty, but this does definitely throw a wrench into the plans when it comes down to betting, right? Because some lines are available, some aren't, some lines are skewed, but this is also where we take advantage, baby, and that's what we're here to do. So, folks, without any further ado, let me go ahead and bring up the records, because if you've been paying attention, if you've been following the program, we are fighting for something special here. If I turn around, you should see a couple shiny belts right behind me. AJ's screen is kind of cutting it off, but he's got a fantastic shiny gold belt as well. That's what we're fighting for this year. AJ's either going to even it up 2-2 apiece, or I'm going triple D, triple champ right here. Either way, look at the scoreboard below. These are the numbers. These are our percentages. Every single week, we're betting on the fights, main card picks, and this is the tally. So with that being said, we're right under 60%. We've been 60% plus all year, and we're heading right back over 60% after this weekend's event. So tune in, folks. Let's go ahead, AJ, and let's bring up the big screen, my favorite, and it's got a little bit of a different format this go around, folks, a little bit of a switch up. UFC Saudi Arabia, this is the bet sheet. As you can see, these are the picks. We don't have a lot to talk about here. I just want you guys to take very quick note of it, and we're going to go ahead and keep it pushing onto the stuff that truly matters. The Bloody Water Podcast bet sheet, if you will. The consensus picks. 3 picks this go around, and you might be asking, hey, there's 5 fights on the card. How come you only got 4 picks overall and you only got 3 consensus picks? Well, guess what, folks? Uncertainty. Like I said, fights coming in and out last second, so take what you can get. AJ, per usual, what is the theme for this week's consensus picks?
The theme this week, Derek, is comfort. And I know it sounds weird saying comfort in a fight, but all of these fighters have exactly comfort in the chaos, comfort controlling this one. Very comfortable picks right here. I like this one.
And for Kelvin Gastelum, you comfortable because you ain't got to cut that weight. We'll talk about it in a second, but what was a 170-pound contest has strangely been quickly moved to 185 pounds. Who would have thought? All right, now let's move on over to the prop locks of the week. I'm going to start off with mine, folks. Nasrat Haqparast versus Jared Gordon over 2.5 rounds at minus 210. This is like stealing candy from a baby. I love this one. Confidence level. I'm on a 3-fight win streak or a 3-week win streak. We're making that 4 all day long. AJ, what do you got?
I got a fun one too, man. Renat Fakhrdinov versus Nick Dalby, man. This one's going to be a blast. And also, man, 2 very calculated, talented fighters with majority of their fights going to decision. We got the over 2.5 at minus money. Back on that dub side. You can see right here, folks, looking to continue that streak for you.
That's right. That's right. All right. So one more time right here, we got a parlay watch to look for. 2 parlays via the Bloody Water Podcast. The first one that we have right here is looking like Sergey Pavlovich and Johnny Walker money line. Combine them together. You took 2 minus odd, folks. Put them together and you get plus 169. I think we like that number. What's the second parlay we got, AJ?
We're rocking with Kong versus Gafurov. I'm taking the under on this one. The minus money's on the over, folks, but I think something's crazy is going to happen here. You got a fast fighter in Gafurov looking to put the pressure on, with Kyung Ho Kong looking to counter-strike, looking for the knockout. Pairing that with Gastelum money line, like Derek said, he's bumping up a weight class, doesn't have to cut weight. We'll see how that affects him. He's a big, heavy favorite right there. Looking at these two for plus 254. Looking to make some cash.
looking to make some cash, folks. So that's the bag. We start off the program giving you the numbers. These are going to be the featured bets. We're going to have some other bets sprinkled in as the show goes on. So check us out for the preview. Check us out for the context. And without any further ado, AJ, let's break down these main card fights, baby. UFC Saudi Arabia. We are making history. Let's get it.
Here's to another main card breakdown, courtesy of your hosts, Derick G and AJ.
All right, folks. So if you are new to this program, what we're about to do here is we're going to break down all of the main card fights, I should say, right here. We're starting with the most important. We're starting with the main event. We're going to work our way all the way down to the beginning bout. Now, just a little bit more context right here. We had Shara Bullet with his third opponent switch right here. It's an unofficial bout, but he's supposed to be fighting Antonio Tricoli, a man who's got his own interesting tale that we will not break down right here at this very moment, but just know we're not going to be breaking down that bout. Shara Bullet versus Antonio Tricoli, because there's no odds out for it right now. We can't give you tremendous value. All we could say is Shara Bullet's like a minus 650 favorite right now, so take that for what it's worth. If you're not subscribed yet, now is the perfect opportunity to do so. And without any further ado, AJ, let's go ahead and talk about Bobby Knuckles' short notice bout against Ikram Aliskerov. Now, if you were tuning in last week's preview show, you know that Ikram Aliskerov was a guy that got scrapped at the last second to go ahead and cover Khamzat Chimaev and fight in the kingdom against Bobby Knuckles. My first question off the bat right here. A lot of people, as you could see the implied opening odds, have Aliskerov as the favorite right here. A lot of people think that he's going to be the bigger, stronger guy and that he's got an advantage given this is a short notice bout. I beg to differ. I think that Whittaker, even though he had to prepare for a different opponent, is probably a little bit more prepared. You've been preparing for 5 rounds this entire time, didn't have to do all the crazy travel at the last second while cutting weight for essentially a week. Who's in the favorite here?
I definitely think it's Bobby Knuckles, Derek, especially like you said, nonetheless, the weight cut and then in the preparation, or I guess being prepared for a 5-round fight, being prepared for a fight in general. Yeah, sure. Aliskerov, he was ready for his fight last week, but then he has all that extra stuff that was going on, right? Causing some chaos. It's not like Robert Whittaker hasn't seen the style that Aliskerov presents. So there's nothing too drastically crazy. It's not like he's being completely surprised with something that's out of left field. Yeah, sure. It's an opponent change, but a professional like Robert Whittaker knows how to get it down. He has a whole team behind him. They're going to be breaking down all of Aliskerov's fights. So he's going to be prepared going into this. I don't see it as that big of a detriment as the media is leading on to be.
Can that chin hold up anymore, man? He's starting to get hit, starting to get touched a little bit. And a lot of people think that the power that Aliskerov presents, doesn't matter if it's short notice, doesn't matter if it was a regular full camp bout. They think that if he touches Whittaker, it's going to be problems right here. This right here could be an opening. This could be an opportunity for a betting folk right here to say, oh, okay, well, a lot of people think that the lean on Robert Whittaker is too heavy. They think that it's not a what have you done for me lately? It's more of his storied legacy, right? The guy who's always been the number 2 guy in the division if it wasn't for Izzy, even though he was the champ before that, but that's neither here nor there. Aliskerov, still unproven, right? Warley Alves, victory, right? Up a weight class, short notice bout. Impressive, but a little bit more that we need to see. Phil Hawes, he was getting touched up a little bit, and then he actually rocked Phil Hawes. I remember watching that in real time. Everyone thought that was a crazy upset, but we already knew the chin of Phil Hawes was a little bit questionable. So I'm not saying that Aliskerov isn't good. Only loss that he has officially is Khamzat Chimaev. He got stiffed by Khamzat Chimaev. Aside from that, he's taking people down at will. He's boxing with them at will. He's doing whatever he wants to whoever he wants. But again, Bobby Knuckles provides an interesting style. So let me give you the update, AJ. The number 3 man ranked in the world right now in the middleweight division, Robert Whittaker, he is no longer a minus 105 underdog, slight dog. He is now a minus 150 favorite, plus 125 comeback for Ikram Aliskerov. Before the line moves further as the weekend comes a little bit closer, if you were a betting man, which you totally are, right, and you weren't already having your pick revealed, when you take a look at those numbers, minus 150 for Whittaker, plus 125 for Aliskerov, what screams value to you of those 2 numbers?
Right off the bat, the Whittaker numbers, right? Minus 150. A lot of the times, especially with an unproven guy, you're not going to get a legend in the game, right? A veteran in the game, that number 3 in the division versus an unranked fighter. You're usually looking plus 250, plus 300 at minimum, right? Nonetheless, like we were talking about before, Shara Bullet, he's a minus 600 favorite. We're lucky to not be seeing those numbers on the Robert Whittaker line. So that's cash right there for me. I mean, minus 150 is a great price to pay for Bobby Knuckles.
And not to double down on agreement right there, but I think the same thing, man. I think that this number could be skewed way further right here, but the fear factor of Ikram Aliskerov in the Saudi kingdom, I think that's playing a part with the odds right there. Not to say that Aliskerov isn't A very talented fighter, because he totally is. But in my opinion right here, a full camp Aliskerov versus Whittaker, it's a little bit of a different story right here. He had a camp. It was just against a different guy with all this travel mixed in. I think that lends a little bit to Robert Whittaker's favor. Let's talk about strategy, though, and how it gets done. If you're looking at the props right here, the odds makers are implying that a knockout is actually going to be the best path to victory for both fighters. I don't know how I feel about that, man. I think that this one could draw out to a decision. It just depends on what the gas tanks are going to be looking like. What is your opinion?
I definitely think this one's more than likely not going to be finished, right? This one's going to decision, and I think that's why the prop for Robert Whittaker, that plus 265 decision, makes a lot more sense. I expect Robert Whittaker, because we know how dangerous Aliskerov is in the beginning of his fights, but he hasn't fought a 5-round fight yet. So if Robert Whittaker can drag him into those deep waters, push the pace on him, we might be able to see, if not a tired Aliskerov, at least a slowed down version, and that's when Bobby Knuckles just points his way to a decision victory.
Which is fair, because we know that has definitely been a time-tested strategy for him. When I go up and I pull up the just kind of the odds over here, as you can see, if you're taking a look at Robert Whittaker and Aliskerov here at the top, minus 150 is the over 2.5 round odd right there, plus 120 for the under for this fight right here, man. So if you're really looking at value right here, what's the better play? Is it going to be that plus, what was it, plus 265 or whatnot for the decision for Robert Whittaker? Or rather, do you just say, I don't care who wins, man, minus 150 on an over, we're putting multiple units on that? What do you think?
I'm going with the latter, Derek, putting multiple units on that over 2.5, especially in a 5-round fight. We're talking going over to the middle of this one all day long. You smash that.
Absolutely. I think that's a fair play too right here. So to kind of round this thing out, like I said, I was alluding to the strategy a little bit right here. A lot of people are concerned if Aliskerov takes Whittaker down, he's not going to be able to get up. I like to remind people that, let's not forget, during the championship run, Whittaker had to fend off Yoel Romero, right, in terms of those takedowns. He's not a man that's easily taken down. I think his performance against Dricus du Plessis, the current middleweight champion right now, rubbed a lot of people the wrong way, and I think that has just left a bitter taste in their mouth, man, where Whittaker at this point right now just kind of seems like a guy who just doesn't quite have it in the tank anymore. We're going to find out this weekend right here. Is this going to be a fraud check situation, or do you truly believe that Aliskerov is a guy that can contend, just not under these circumstances?
No, I think this is a fraud check, Derek. I think a lot of people are sleeping on Bobby Knuckles. And don't get me wrong, Aliskerov is a scary man, but people need to be reminded, man, this is tiers, right? And we're going to see if Aliskerov is able to enter that next tier, all credit to him. I still got a lot of faith in Bobby Knuckles.
It's levels right here. We've seen it time and time again. We're looking for another one this weekend. Again, we think Bobby Knuckles, Bloody Water Podcast, consensus pick right here. We think that this is definitely going to be a steal when it comes down to value. So give us the play, Robert Whittaker. And the final one, where is the juice coming from, AJ? If you were a prop man, what's the prop going to be on Whittaker?
Over 2.5. Oh, on Whittaker only. My bad. We're going Whittaker only, plus 265 decision.
Fair play. All right, folks, with that being said, that's your main event in Saudi Arabia. This is a big deal, folks. This is a legitimate big deal, and we're ready to cash in. Moving on to what will be the co-main event, which is actually surprising. Like, this should be the main event. Heavyweights, co-main, what are we talking about? Sergey Pavlovich. The man is looking for revenge, and there's a lot of interesting buildup. He's fighting Drago, Alexander Volkov right here. AJ, really quickly before we jump into this, have you heard a little bit of the backstory where they were saying these guys trained together? Pavlovich, rumors is he won the vast majority of the rounds that he would fight against Volkov, and some people were even saying that Volkov was scared of Pavlovich. I don't believe that. I don't believe that there's fear in MMA. These guys are all professionals. They punch each other in the face at the elite top level of the world. I don't think that exists. But have you heard any of the backstory, and have you let any of that fall into your analysis for this bout?
I haven't heard any of the backstory, Derek, and if anybody out there is saying an MMA fighter's scared, you have zero idea what you're talking about. These guys are going to go to war, and I'm excited for this fight right here.
Bro, this is going to be a great fight, and this is really interesting because if you look at both fighters collectively, you know Sergey Pavlovich is a crusher, a man who gets you out of there early. Like, you can't let him touch you, because if he touches you, odds are you're probably not going to get back up. Let's look at the Aspinall fight. It was first to get touched. Unfortunately, he got touched first, right? I think Aspinall actually ate a clean one, so maybe the chin held up on Aspinall. But the point is this. Volkov, he can do it in a plethora of ways. He can submit you. He can knock you out. We loved the new and improved Volkov when he got rid of the Stingray and went just like the full blasted back tattoo. Like it was a new evolution, right? This dude is a monster, long, lanky guy. If we're looking at the reach right here, 80-inch reach. Believe it or not, man, Pavlovich got an 84-inch reach. This dude, for whatever reason, is long as hell. Here's the point right here. This is the speculation that I've been hearing. Again, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to pull us on over to the big screen to take a look at the over on this one. AJ, the over. Plus 115 on this matchup. And people are saying that that is going to be the lock of the night. That's what's going to make everybody rich on Saturday night at UFC Saudi Arabia, minus 145 for the under. Are you bold enough? Are you a brave enough bettor to go ahead and say, give me the over 1.5 rounds?
I'm not, Derek. Not on this fight, man. I think this one's ending in that under for sure. Under 1.5. You got a crusher in Pavlovich with and don't get me wrong, Volkov is a crusher as well. But Volkov's going to be looking for distance, looking to hurt somebody. And if the rounds were going like how they said they were going in the practice, and now that got leaked, Volkov's going to have something to say, man. And I think this fight will get finished in that under range.
Oh, man, that's interesting. I'm telling you, bro, MMA Twitter, the community, right? They're going against you. But that's the point, right? You have to be steadfast in your own analysis and your own opinion. And if you look at Sergey Pavlovich, let's take a look at how many first-round victories or just first-round fights, man. This dude hasn't been out of the first round since 2017. And that was a 5-round fight that he won a unanimous decision, 5 rounds right here. So I think he definitely has what it takes to go the distance here against Volkov. He has the longer reach. The only problem is Volkov's have some really long legs, and your arm reach does not mitigate those long legs. So we need to see what the kicks look like for Alexander Volkov. If anybody was going to take this fight to the mat, who would it be, Volkov or Pavlovich?
If Pavlovich is able to get this fight to the ground, Volkov will be able to find at least a way to, if not get up, put Pavlovich in a dangerous situation. And with that mix-up, man, I think we're going to see a lot of like a washing machine style of fight for big guys, see if power actually does turn the tide.
Yeah, that would definitely be a fun fight to watch, man. I just don't even know if we make it there because I think there's going to be a lot of tentativeness, right? Again, first to land right here. If you're Volkov, it's about I have to stay at distance. I might not even want to close the distance to try to go ahead and, put myself in that position. But either way, you like the under 1.5 rounds, currently tracking minus 145, so odds makers like it too. I'm really interested though, man. This does feel like something that if Volkov could play it right, then we can hit there. But if we're not diving for that one, where do you see value here for Pavlovich? I kind of see it purely in a money line right here, man. These are opening odds again. Minus 225 for Pavlovich, plus 185 for Volkov. Currently tracking minus 240 for Pavlovich. Is that a price you are willing to pay on a pure money line for Sergey Pavlovich?
Pure money, yeah. I mean, I definitely 240. If we're getting into 300s, that's when I'm starting to balk a little bit. But 240 is a very, very reasonable price for somebody who's on the tear that Pavlovich is. I mean, even with the last loss of Ham Aspinall, one other punch and it could have gone the other way. So I like that money.
And let's not forget, everybody thought Pavlovich, was going to come in there and just smash Aspinall, right? Like that was the thought process. So to see him get devastated like that, it's actually surprising that this is barely the little line shift. Like this is how heavy he is after that, right? So I agree. I like Sergey Pavlovich here. I think he's the lean, and I like the money line. I'm going to be frank with you guys. That's the reason why he's in a parlay right there, is because I think if you couple Pavlovich with somebody else, and you're confident in that other pick, of course, to hit that parlay, I think this provides tremendous value. So I think Pavlovich is the better fighter overall right now. We've seen that the power is just unmatched, and his ability to walk forward and dictate the fight and get it where he wants to be, I think it's just it's gonna lend to more success for Pavlovich than it will for Alexander Volkov. We love us some Drago here on this program. We've been repping this man for a long time, but I think even after the loss against Aspinall, it's very clear Pavlovich, he's the real deal, dude. Like you can't pass up on this one. Last question, then we'll jump right here. If you were an Alexander Volkov bettor and you were throwing a Hail Mary on this one, what prop would you pick of all of these? The decision, the TKO, or the sub?
Ooh, I would have to go with the TKO, Derek, and only because a counter striker and with the legs that Volkov has, keeping somebody at distance and then crashing in on them, we can see a knockout coming here for Drago.
Fair play. Another Bloody Water Podcast consensus pick, Sergey Pavlovich for the victory right here. And AJ, before we bring up this next bout, I want to actually play a couple of clips right here, man. We don't do this very often, but as I had mentioned, this next bout that we're going to be talking about, this is going to be Kelvin Gastelum versus Daniel Rodriguez, originally scheduled for 170 pounds. However, I'm going to bring up the big screen, and this is what Daniel Rodriguez, or actually no, this is what Kelvin Gastelum, this is what he had to say. Fight week You tell me what your impression is of the statement that we have right here. So let's go ahead and hear it.
Do we feel confident that we're hitting 170 this weekend, or do we think maybe there should be a conversation about a catch weight?
I am pretty worried this week, but
Hold on, wait, hold on. First off, just to be straight up, yep, pretty worried about the weight cut. I know I flew all the way out to Saudi Arabia, but weight cut might be a concern. AJ, what are your thoughts on that off the bat?
Man, as his PR, if I was his PR guy, I'd be a little concerned, a little tenuous. Yeah, no, and as a bettor too, when I saw this, it made me a little like questionable if I should even put in the parlay, because like, is this guy even going to show up for weight? Like, is this guy going to show up for the night? Like, how's all this going to go? It's a lot of worry going into this one.
You know, at this point, Dana White, you getting cut from the UFC. You can't pull out of this fight, right? It's too late. We've already been dealing with too much right here. So, all right, he continues.
you know, we're going to talk with the manager and come up with the best game plan. You know, but I think
tell he's like, fuck.
You know, we're in for a rough weight cut.
Yeah, not good. This is all I'm going to say, man. Let's couple this all together with about a month ago. He put out a new program, a new podcast. Shout out to Kelvin Gastelum, all the fighters who promote themselves. You got to do something, right? Outside of fighting. And it's a food reviewing program or something where they just eating the dopest food and all that. And it's called Missing Weight with Kelvin Gastelum. So I'm just like, this is just stock, just dropping. Remember, welterweight was the natural weight class. That's his weight class, right? So not a good look. All right, so I bring this clip up just to show you this next clip from his opponent, Daniel Rodriguez. And this is what his opponent has to say. And I think this is actually a really good listen. So check it out.
He was just in here and he said that training camp's not gone well. He's struggling with a weight cut. It might be a rough one, and he would like to. Him and his manager might, consider reaching out about a catch weight. Have you heard anything about that? And are you surprised that he was so honest?
So really quickly, you're a fighter, and you hear this from a reporter about your opponent. First off, you're probably. What are you thinking, AJ? In your opinion, what are you thinking?
Man, I guess I'm not that mad, because it seems like D-Rod has had some conversations. But if this is the first time you're hearing of it, you're pissed, right?
But you're also maybe like, yo, I might smirk this dude. Bad weight cut, all that shit. All right, let's go. All right, this is what he got to say.
Actually, the matchmakers reached out, and I tried to get it to a catch weight, but I mean, he must be having such a bad fight camp that he can't even make 180. I'm currently 179 pounds, so I have to put weight back on.
And this is a very important part right here. The cut and weight, that's already terrible. Now you have to go and put on weight. Putting on weight organically versus synthetically it's just a very different ball game. And it's going to be a very clear advantage, an unfair advantage for Kelvin Gastelum if he never had to cut the weight in the first place. There's diminished returns right there. So let's see what else he got to say.
It's been 13 weeks since I found out about this fight. I'm sure he has too. So the fact that he's saying that he's having a bad fight camp, it makes no sense, And I feel like it's lack of discipline. I don't know if he's having a bad fight camp or just being lazy and doesn't want to make the weight.
He was just in here and he said,
listen, that's a fair assessment, bro. I think that's a super fair assessment. So let's go ahead and let's move back to the regular screen right here. All right. D-Rod, he says, Gastelum, you're lazy, not professional, bro. You've known about this thing for 13 weeks, and now you're having a bad fight camp. Well, I'm still game, and I'm in a bad spot because let's not forget, if you're looking at the cumulative records of both of these fighters, Daniel Rodriguez, he's lost his last two. Kelvin Gastelum, he lost his last one. Both of these guys need a victory, and Kelvin Gastelum went so far to say, loser packs their bags. You're out of here, pal. Loser gets cut, like an old school WWE wrestling match, bro. What's your thought, just all this context before we jump into this? And again, talk to the people from a betting perspective on the worry you have on either side.
Man, this makes for an interesting one, because that was a D-Rod that was a little like you said, mad, upset about what's going on, but also he was looking shredded, right? He was having probably also just as hard of a time cutting down, going through the motions. Now we get to see him a little bit more mad, and we all know who the gangster that is, D-Rod. So this is going to be a very fun fight. And as far as the missing weight, as at least on Gastelum's side, it's interesting to see, because when you see him talking, you see the little smirk come up. Seems like this was something that was in the play for a couple days, if not a couple weeks going forward. So if that was my opponent, seeing that smirk, seeing the way he phrased it, yeah, I'd be pissed off going into this one. I'm excited to see how this fight goes.
Last time I checked, we call this sanctioned cheating, right? The ability to go ahead and just pull that trump card out at the last second and say, oh yeah, I got a little bit of an advantage. But guess what? My back is against the wall. So if you're not cheating, you're not trying, right? You got to just, that's the old Raider way. You know what I'm saying? Shout out. We love some Raider swag over here. But all right, let's actually jump into it, man. And let me pull up the graphic so we can get back to business right here. Kelvin Gastelum versus Daniel Rodriguez. No longer a welterweight bout. Sorry, folks. We didn't have enough time to update the sheet because this is just how rapidly this news has been coming out. But he did open up as a minus 220 favorite, which I thought was a little steep. Plus 180 comeback for D-Rod. AJ, you want to know the current total now? Minus 240 for Gastelum, plus 195 for Rodriguez. And this is after the news of this moving to middleweight. So again, I think that normally this would favor Daniel Rodriguez. Oh, my opponent's having a terrible camp. Weight cut's terrible, right? Except this go around, I think he's actually at a more massive disadvantage. And I don't think that he actually wanted to take the fight. I think that the UFC probably put him in a situation where you got to take the fight, bro. This or whatever other consequences that you can conjure up in your mind. So given that Kelvin Gastelum has an advantage coming into the fight, we know that I personally believe better striker. I think that he's got better wrestling, even though he doesn't particularly use it. And he's more of a OG, crafty veteran of the game. But there's one thing that D-Rod cannot have taken away from him, and that he's game, bro. This dude scraps, and he comes to bring it. So how is that factor going to play in here? Should Kelvin Gastelum be a current minus 240 favorite in this matchup?
Yes, should he be a favorite? Absolutely, Derek. But that's not to say that D-Rod is completely out of the mix right here, right? You see minus 240, you're thinking, oh, wow, like this is a big favorite. Yeah, right, the money's there. But D-Rod, with the amount of pressure he's going to put on and the pace, like you said, the scrap that's going to come along with the Daniel Rodriguez fight, man, this could be one of those ones where we're all looking back and saying, oh, damn, everybody was sleeping on D-Rod. Like we've seen fights happen exactly like that, right? Where Daniel Rodriguez is supposed to lose, comes back and the thug comes down and he gets to work, right? He puts the knuckles to work. And in one of those fights, right, in the kind of drag out, knockout style of fight, Kelvin Gastelum not only survives but exceeds. In for instance, the Izzy fight, right? Kelvin Gastelum lumped up Izzy, but to the point where it's still hard to see Calvin win those fights because he's also getting lumped up. And if you're going to be there standing and trading with Daniel Rodriguez, it is going to be a long, bloody night. Makes for a fun fight for all of us.
See, it's tough, bro, because my opinion is a little bit different. I think that Kelvin Gastelum, in just a straight-up matchup where we're not worried about the takedown, I think that he's going to thrive in these matchups. But I also think that we're living a lot off of past glory, bro. We're still talking about the Izzy fight. How long ago was the Izzy fight? If I have to take a look at it, bro, this was in 2019, and we're talking about the fight that he lost, right? Yeah, he took Izzy to deep waters. Izzy's track record after the fact, I think, has propelled that fight even further. But I think what it comes down to here, man, is if you look at the last couple of wins, Chris Curtis, which was controversial because a lot of people thought that Chris Curtis got a victory and there was like clash of heads and all that. And then Ian Heinisch, no longer in the UFC, like long gone from the UFC. Prior to that, Jacare Souza, Michael Bisping. If that's your last wins in the last 10 fights, if we're talking going back to 2017, bro, it's just 2017, it's just a little problematic on my part, but I still think that throughout watching him in his career, Kelvin Gastelum is the play. I think the biggest problem, if I'm being completely frank and talking about right now, I think that the biggest problem for Daniel Rodriguez is just going to be a speed disadvantage, man. I think Gastelum is going to be a little bit quicker, a little bit sharper in the boxing, and we saw how Ian Gary was able to touch up Rodriguez in that last fight. It's just a matter of speed kills, and I think Gastelum will be able to use it to his advantage, especially not being depleted off of that weight cut. So let's talk about the props. If you're looking at Kelvin Gastelum, I thought it was really interesting that they had minus 105 decision for his prop total. Do you like that price?
I mean, I find it interesting, Derek. Do I like it? Not really, because I mean, yeah, could I see this one going to a decision, but it's not really that enticing for me, right? It makes more sense to me having some other prop like a TKO or bundling Calvin in a parlay, because if this does go to decision, we've seen Kelvin Gastelum lose decisions as well, and have questionable outcomes whether he wins or loses them either way, right?
Right, correct. Taking a look here, though, right? If you're looking at the over 2.5 rounds, it's minus 200 on this fight, plus 160 for the under. So is that something you would take, plus 160 on the under?
Plus 160 on the under? No. I mean, I do think this fight's going more the distance, so if you're looking, I would rather take the over out of all of these, even though it's minus 200, right? Might go 2.5 rounds. It still could possibly get finished, but with the unsureties, I guess is the best way to say it, like inconclusiveness of how Kelvin Gastelum's fight get judged, that's what makes me worrisome about choosing a strictly decision for him.
I'm really glad that you brought that up, because what I was going to say is let's round all of this out by ultimately saying when you have a weird situation like this in a weird fight card, if you're a smart bettor, are you betting on every fight? No, absolutely not. And I would advise you guys to stay away from this bout completely. Don't touch it. I wouldn't bet Kelvin Gastelum. I wouldn't bet D-Rod, and I wouldn't bet anything other than an over and under because that's a little bit easier to predict. So I actually like the over 2.5 rounds, minus 200 right here. Again, it's going to depend on what the weight cut ends up looking like for weight cut, right? Like, I don't even know what that's going to be factoring into, but we'll find out tomorrow morning. As of we're recording, this is Thursday, folks, so let's not forget that. But with that being said, for the purpose of the picks that we are providing here in the head-to-head competition, it's a Bloody Water Podcast consensus pick. Kelvin Gastelum is the play. This is kind of one of those like dog or pass, but this is just a pure pass for me. So I think we're in consensus right there, AJ. We spent enough time on this one with all of the videos and all that. Let's kick it off to the last bout of the night for us, the first bout of the main card. Johnny Walker, he makes it back to the desert, AJ. If you remember last time that he was in the desert, it wasn't a great time. That was that was interesting. Let's just kind of call it that, right? So last time that he fought, it was against Magomed Ankalaev, right? He got knocked out. Was it the knee? Was it the first fight? The no contest?
First fight.
Right.
Yep.
That's right. Okay, so the first fight in the desert, right? He catches the knee. He still wants to fight. All of that. They ask him where you're at. He's like, I'm in the desert. And they're like, that's not good enough. You're done, right? And listen, for good measure, whatever. He lost the fight after. It is what it is. He goes back, and I think it's really interesting. So before we jump into this, what do you think about that, man? Conquering your fears. You have to. That's a piece of you that's missing. You have to go back in there and conquer that and say, I can go back and fight there. That place doesn't own me. I own that place, even though that's the Saudi kingdom. You don't own that place, but that's neither here nor there. What do you think, bro?
I love it, man. That's the warrior spirit. That's exactly, and what I like most is Johnny Walker's always had that crazy in him. So he's developed this new kind of persona, but still has that drive, that ego, that that pushes all of us. I love to see it, man.
Perfect. Now let's talk about the opponent, Volkan Ozdemir. He opened up as a plus 110 dog, but we know that he can definitely get it done, especially at dog odds. Looking at current odds right now, AJ, this is a pick'em, minus 110 a pop. This is a coin flip, the definition of a coin flip right there. So my question is, if you're looking at Volkan Ozdemir, he had an interesting run. Got a win over Ilir Latifi. He was able to split decision Alexander Rakic, big win. You lose to Ankalaev, you lose to Yuri Prohashka, you beat Paul Craig, right? So back on the board, big. Lose to Nikita Krylov. And then you get Bogdan Guskov, which he's like overperformed a little bit right there, Guskov. Like it actually turned out to be a little bit of a better win than we thought. But that's all to say, Ozdemir's just been inconsistent, man. For me, it's been a hard guy to read, and I haven't had the best experience betting on him because of that inconsistency. Johnny Walker, almost in the same camp, but AJ, would I be a crazy man to tell you that I truly believe that this is the resurgence of Johnny Walker? I truly believe it, man. I really believe that if you're breaking it down, Johnny Walker, if he sticks to his guns, if he stays in the center of the cage and he just checks a couple of good kicks, lands his own calf kicks, and brings the fight to him, invites the fight, he sits down on his shots and avoids the takedown, I think that he can beat almost anybody in this division. I don't know if I'm a crazy man. Obviously, Ankalaev, my dark horse of the light heavyweight division, who can't get his title shot for whatever reason. Yeah, he lost to him, but this is not him. This is a Volkan Ozdemir. And without being too biased, I just want you to play off of what I just mentioned right here. Fair or foul?
Oh, absolutely fair, Derek. I love this new, and you said resurgence of Johnny Walker, man. I love this new character, a new style that he's been presented, man, because not only is he just dangerous, explosive, but he's calculated. He knows timing now, man. And this guy has fun in there. He's back to the fun Johnny Walker. He's not doing the worm anymore and dislocating his shoulder, but he's putting his fist more in a better position to provide for his family, right? He's knocking people out, getting things done, man. I love this version of Johnny Walker, so I agree with you. Is his talent level at the spot where he's going to take over? I think if not there now, he's one small click away, and that could be the knockout of Ozdemir, of the next opponent, and keeps the ball rolling. This could be that moment that sends him off.
Are you confident in that? Plus 230 TKO for Walker, given that they have Ozdemir at plus 240 for a TKO on his end? I didn't know Johnny Walker was that knockoutable, if you will. But are you confident in that plus 230 on the Walker side?
Confident? Not really, Derek. I mean, if there's one outcome that this fight is more than likely going to have, it's going to be knockout. But saying I'm confident one side or the other, no, man, because I also have coin toss written down, and this was before the odds made it a coin toss. I see this one a very even style of fight, especially with how they've handled similar opponents in the past. So I'm not sure if finish is going to be here. What do you think?
Well, the good thing is that this is not the Bloody Water Podcast picks. This is my picks and your picks, and I disagree, sir. I think that Johnny Walker, I see the number. I see the number, and I see what the odds makers are thinking, but I personally think that he should be a little bit of a heavier favorite. And actually, if we go on over and bring the big screen up again, a real-time odd flip right here. Not a flip, but a switch, a slight shift. Minus 115 now for Johnny Walker. So we're starting to go back. Obviously, folks, these odds change all the time. So what are they? Asterisks odds subject to change or something like that? Yeah, we put that. Just pretend that we did that. All right. Listen, I think that only thing that could really spice this thing up is if Volkan Ozdemir can get in, can punch in bunches right there, and can really knock Johnny Walker off of his statue, off of his equilibrium, and make him a very moving fighter. We already know Walker will go back up against the cage and just hold his ground right there and look to counter strike. I just think it's a matter right here of who can, for Walker, if he can land the one, I think he gets it done. If Ozdemir can get in and punch and bunch, I think that he could really, really get it done there. But my pick is going to be on Johnny Walker. Without diving crazy into the analytics or anything like that, is there anything else that you want to cover here? Because the last thing that I'm going to do is hit over and unders, and then we're moving it on, brother.
You nailed it, brother. I think Ozdemir is going to try to walk Johnny Walker down, beat him up, punches and bunches, win the fight on a TKO, maybe win this fun on a drag out. Who knows? But I'm going with Ozdemir, and I like the way he stopped his style of fight.
Fair play. 240 plus 240 on Ozdemir for TKO.
Ooh, man, I'm sticking with that money line, brother. Like I said, there's some unsureties going on right here.
Fair play, fair play. All right, man. So over and under right here as we bring up the big screen one final time for the main card. Minus 160 over 1.5 rounds, plus 130 on the under. I'm conflicted, man. I don't know. What's your thoughts?
Woo! I'm taking that under, Derek. I would take that under all day. Plus 130. Two big guys going in there with KO power on each side. Like, it makes sense to me, but at the same time, I could also see how the tentativeness and the cautious of both these fighters takes it past that 1.5.
Is it fair to say the unofficial parlay for you is going to be the under on the Walker Ozdemir and the under on Pavlovich and Volkov? Is it fair to say this is breaking news?
Fair to say, Derek, I'm taking the under for sure.
All right, we heard it here first, folks. Listen, this doesn't happen very often, but this is an official AJ parlay for you folks right here. So listen, take the bread where the bread is made. All right, with that being said, this is not a Bloody Water Podcast consensus pick. This is a little bit of a contentious pick. I'm rolling with Walker. AJ's rolling with Ozdemir. May the odds ever be in your favor. Shout out to the Hunger Games. All right, AJ, with that being said, it's time to move on, my friend. We're going to be moving on to the sleeper section of this program, the unknowns of today, but the stars of tomorrow, and you know what we're here to break down. So without any further ado, cue the music.
It's time for some fight night.
If you ain't paying attention, you're gonna sleep on me and I'm gonna wake you up.
Folks, that wasn't music. That was the beautiful voice of the king, Bobby Green, right there, showing up for the sleepers, and we got some fun ones for you guys here today. So, AJ, right before you jump into these sleepers right here, let's go ahead and give a little bit of context, right? I'm going to bring up the big screen one more time here, and let's not forget, this was a main card bout like yesterday or something like that, right? So I was doing tape. Like, I've actually really dived in on this matchup. I had picks in the whole entire 9 for you guys, but this is now turned into a sleeper. So lead it away, my friend.
Yeah, I'm cheating a little bit on this sleeper, man. There's a lot of fights on this card in the prelims, but I had to talk about Felipe Lima. And we've talked about Naimov before as well. So don't get me wrong. I like this fight for specifically how crazy this one's going to be. You got Naimov, only 2 losses. You can see his record right there, 11-2, only 2 losses come by decision. And when a guy has a KO on Derek's boy, Jamie Malarkey, you know he's going to be providing the excitement, brother. And then on the other side, Felipe Lima, man, explosive finisher. Look for his flying knees, right? This is going to catch somebody on the chin with a flying knee. He's done it multiple times. Likes to brawl. This one's going to be a very fun fight. Do not blink on it.
Do not blink. And let's not also forget, man, I know Lima's got a lot of the high-flying tendencies and all that. This dude could wrestle. Let's not forget that. Like, this is going to be a fun fight. This is going to be absolute fireworks. And I think that Lima is a very, very hungry guy. Let's not forget that this was the Octagon Bantamweight champion. They literally said, like, hey, sorry, bro. Like, I gotta go. I'm signing to the UFC. So the champion left, and that's pretty common in regional promotions. But this is Octagon MMA. That's a little bit different, right? And he's coming up. But let's not forget, AJ, the last caveat again. I already did the breakdown on this. They're fighting at featherweight. So he is going up a weight class for this matchup. Still, absolute banger alert. All right, folks, I got a sleeper for you guys as well. And listen, we going with the big boys today. If you know me, historically, I go with the lighter weight classes. It's normally where I see a little bit more fun. But Magomed Gadzi Yasulov versus Bredson Ribeiro. Listen, folks, I'm just going to say this. These are two very highly touted prospects. Like, if you don't know these guys, now you know. Shout out Dana White. Really, shout out to my boy Biggie. You know what I'm saying? But you should know about this guy, Gadzi Yasulov. Could wrestle with the best of them. This dude's strikes are crisp, clean, and fluid. And if he sits down on it and you get caught, it's not going to be good for you. He's 8-0 for a reason. I will give you guys a little bit of insight, though. The record, we're not going to say padded, but let's just say it's he's coming from that side of the world where some of, when you have a bout on your Tapology where they're like, failed to find the credibility, or this could be like one of those, type of matchups, that's how you know we need to take an assessment into the record. Ribeiro, on the other hand, he's fought much more established competition. As you can see, he's racked up some wins, racked up some losses, and he came in so highly touted that he got knocked out by a sick KO in his first fight in the UFC, in the debut. We know oftentimes the debut can be the jitters, so I expect this to be the true debut for Ribeiro right here. And I think that if Gadzi, God damn, AJ, you already know, I thought I was doing so good at that one. Gadzi Yasulov, there we go. If he doesn't decide to keep this fight on the mat, I think that somebody's going to bed right here, man. This is knockout written all over it. First round finishes across the board for these guys. So, with all that being said, banger alert right here. The big boys, 205 pounds, folks. And with that being said, we still got a little bit of time here. AJ, let's go ahead and let's dive into a little bit of a prelim pour-over here. So, folks, let's not forget, in the beginning of the program, I mentioned to you guys, hey, here's all of our picks. We lay it all out. We give you all the value up front right here. The only thing that we ask in return is like, subscribe, really, more than anything else, and drop a comment. Let us know how you're interacting with the content that we're putting out. Improvements, all that good stuff, whatever the case may be. Really, we want to know when you're winning money, which on this program is a lot. But more important, if you stick around, you get a couple of extra bets, and that's us going through the card, assessing overs, assessing unders. We've done plenty of that on the main card, but now we're going to jump into the prelims and see where we can really find some values and find some live dogs. Like, that's going to be the key here today. So let me bring AJ back up here on the screen, and let's go ahead, bring up that big screen. And instead of looking at the sleeper, we're going back up to the ESPN page so that we can kind of just take a look, man, at what these fights are looking like, what they present. And the first fight, AJ, normally I'll let you go ahead and pick one, but we need to talk about this one, brother. And I have an inclination that you were going to go to this one anyways. So Rinat Fakhretdinov versus Nicholas Dalby. Briefly touched on it earlier here, but we know Fakhretdinov, man, this dude is looking unstoppable right now. And if we're looking through and through at what the open was for that fight, he opened as a minus 250 favorite, plus 175 comeback for Dalby. Currently, as you could see, tracking much closer to, those numbers are a little hard to read for me, but I'm seeing minus 380 for Fakhretdinov and plus 280 for Nicholas Dalby. Now, this is a fair assessment under most circumstances, but AJ, I think that we need to bring up the elephant in the room. Fakhretdinov can wrestle with the best of them, but cardio, a little bit of an issue right here. So talk to me a little bit about this matchup right here, man. What are the different paths that you see here? Do you think that Fakhretdinov should be locked in at this high of a price?
This high of a price? No, Derek. No, I do not. And I think a lot of people are forgetting how, I don't want to say the word calculated, but technical Nicholas Dalby is whenever he's going into a fight, right? And I was saying before in the prop lock, there's a reason I like the over for this one, because they're very calculated, right? A majority of these fights go to decision, but if you're looking at how Fakhretdinov is going to fight, it's going to be Fakhretdinov trying to get this fight to the ground, trying to control, trying to put that pressure on, while Nicholas Dalby is just going with the classic karate, right? Stick on the outside, blitz on in, things, send long attacks down range, so that way you don't have to get up inside in the mix and be allowed to be taken down. And I think that mix of that ebb and flow that these fighters are going to have, that's why I really like the over on this one. Very calculated. And that's not to say a finish can't happen, right? Like if Fakhretdinov is able to get Dalby to the ground and just hold him there, we can see this fight ending early, right? But at the same time, Dalby can starch Fakhretdinov, right? There's things that can happen, but I do expect this one to be a lot longer and more calculated of a chess match than just a slug it out brawl.
Yeah, and I think that's fair, bro. I think that my biggest alert when I look at this matchup, man, my biggest alert to this one right here is okay, maybe over 2.5 rounds, maybe, right? But I don't want to look too crazy, man. But Nicholas Dalby, as at dog odds, I think he's had like 7 or 8 fights in the UFC where he's been listed as an underdog, and he's won 7 of those 8, if that number is correct. Whatever the ultimate number is, he's won all of them except one of them. I just looked at that stat before we recorded, so I was like, oh man, that makes sense because I lose a lot for Dalby hitting these crazy upsets. And where do these upsets come? It comes against the guys, because we always label Dalby as having like a cardio issue, right? Because he breathes all crazy. Like that's his like style of breathing for whatever reason. He says it works for him. So I think when Fakhretdinov, who almost got finished in his last fight because this dude ran out of gas, if he does that against Dalby, man, Dalby is like a prime candidate for a live dog upset right here. And I don't know what the odds are here, AJ. You know what? We're gonna do something here, AJ, real quick. I'm gonna pull up a website and I'm gonna test something, but we're gonna see if we can provide tremendous value here at the Bloody Water Podcast. While I am doing that, AJ, I would like for you to go ahead and just round out this matchup right here. Give me like 30 seconds. I'm gonna have this up. Go ahead, take over.
Round out this matchup, folks. When this one's going down, right? Like I said, we're going to see a calculated one. But if you're looking at pure value going into this, I'm not looking for a finish on either guy, right? Don't look at the pro, or you can. I mean, by all means, look at the props. But if you're looking for a solid bet, over and under is going to be the best way to look at this fight because of how the styles are going to make sense, right? They say it all the time, styles make fights, but when going into this one with 2 calculated opponents at a very high level and a point in, well, one in Fakhretdinov's career where he can really jump off, or in Nicholas Dalby's career where he can get back on, this is one of those moments that they're going to be going into this a little more calculated and having an outlook on stuff that's able to discern what's going on instead of just clash in and be violent.
Now listen, AJ's giving you the real logical advice right here, but I'm going for the blow of the century. I want to make us all rich right now, and I'm willing to take an L on my record for this pick. You can put it under me, you can credential it to me, I don't care. But AJ, look at what I just found right here. It's very circumstantial. I think it could hit, man. We're looking at Nick Dalby, round 3 KO plus 2,800 right there, baby. Let's go. You put $100 in there. I don't even know how much you make. You're making a ridiculous amount of money right here. What happens if I click this? Let's see. Risk $100. $2,800 on $100 right there. So let's make it a little more reasonable. Listen, man, this is not a baller rich program right here. We like to make our money. We would like to be reasonable within our units. So let's put $50. It's a little more reasonable. You have it. $1,400 right there. Folks, I'm not calling it, but I'm saying Nick Dalby, round 3, TKO after Fakhretdinov gasses himself out. I'm going to go with Dalby on this one. If he makes me look bad, well, that's on me, and we're going to eat it on the chin. But that's a Bloody Water Podcast exclusive right there for you, okay? All right, AJ, back to the regular scheduled programming. Let's go ahead and let's just see what else these prelims have to offer, my friend. All right, so Nasrat Haqparast, versus Jared Gordon right here. I already told you this is going to be my prop lock, over 2.5 rounds. I think you cash that in all day. I just think it's really interesting that they got Haqparast as a minus 240 favorite because I don't agree with the ticket price. I love Haqparast. Fantastic boxer, young. This dude can outpoint a lot of guys. Jared Gordon, though, I just feel like he's always on the tail end of these matchups in terms of the odds makers, and he always overperforms. Doesn't always get it done. Like, majority of the time, doesn't particularly get it done. But I like Jared Gordon right here, and I'm throwing a little something on him, but my main bet is the over 2.5 rounds. Do you have anything else on this matchup?
I like the over a lot better. I mean, I agree with you, Derek. I like Haqparast a lot, but I think this one should be a little bit more closer to like a minus 150 plus 125. I don't know where the odds are at right now. A little rough to read, but still minus 200 and something seems like a lot to pay for Haqparast going into a fight against the Night Train. Minus
240 plus 195. And believe it or not, this is not the Night Train. That's Jared Gooden. This is Jared Gordon. All good, brother. But I'm with you right there. Yeah, like I said, I like Jared Gordon. I know really the real play is the over right here, but we'll see how that one shakes out. What else we got? No need to talk about the Kong versus Gaffarov. That's going to be a fun fight. Already broke this one down. This one right here, someone's getting knocked out. That's all you need to know. Bantamweight title fight. This is going to be a road to the UFC, I believe, a championship right here, which I have not been following too much, if I'm being completely frank with you. Just hard to find where I'm actually going to be streaming that. And I do not have UFC Fight Pass anymore, folks. Listen, the UFC is charging an arm and a leg these days to be a fan. So you got to get it in where you can. And we do it on the primetime programs. All right, AJ, I think that's fair to go ahead and round it out. Let's go ahead and jump on over to the outro. Folks, we made it to another outro, and we want to give you one very quick piece of programming notes right here. From this point moving forward, check us out. We're going to be doing a pretty grand slam of a program here where we're going to be doing breakdowns. So we'll break down, take the accountability hour, and we're going to do that at the top of the show next week on Friday. Once it drops, we will go ahead, do the regular program, and still hit on some news and notes, because that's what we do here at the Bloody Water Podcast. AJ, as always, take us out of here, my friend.
Folks, we said it before. We do want to see what kind of comments you have for us, whether it's improvements, suggestions, whatever the case. But most importantly, putting down how much money you're winning. Because I know you're winning money if you're placing the same bets we are. But if you are, right, when you are winning that cash, make sure you let everybody else know, because you need to be winning money here with us. And if you're a good friend, you're going to be telling your friends where to go cash in. We're your favorite fighter's favorite fight show for a reason, folks. And like Derick said, there may not be a post show, but we're still going to keep ourselves accountable. We're still going to keep providing you with that content and that information, and nonetheless stacking those pockets. So make sure you hit that subscribe button.
Plenty to come in store, but that's it for us this week. Catch us next week on Friday for the UFC. AJ, what's it going to be? 302. Oh, it's not Conor McNuggets. It's not that one. It's something a little bit different, but it'll be a fun one. Catch us on the flip side, folks. That's it for us, and until next time, peace.